Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Virtual Travel Escapes. I'm Rhonda Svan, the Leisure Manager at Paul Travel, and the beautiful Julie Beck-Dash. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Rhonda, and hi, everybody. Welcome.
Thank you all for taking time this afternoon to join us on our little webinar series where we've been featuring different destinations and experiences really from around the world in hopes to kind of give us some inspiration of where we want to travel to next. And maybe it's been satisfying your thirst for travel. I know the desire has been building and building, and you travelers out there, you're starting to plan. So that is so great. Now, all of these webinars have been recorded in the past. So if you visit Paul Travel, www.paultravel.com/webinars, you'll see a list of all of our previously recorded webinars, and there might be something really exciting in there for you to watch. So please visit our website and enjoy. So for really the upcoming webinars, I know Julie and we've been really dedicated over the last, 17 months. We've been doing our virtual travel escapes every week. We're mixing it up a little bit for the summer months and heading into the fall. We're going to do it every 2 weeks now. So our next webinar will be August 19th, and it's going to be with Butterfield and Robinson, which is a luxury bike journey company. So I think that'll be fabulous. So please join us in a couple of weeks. That's August 19th at 4 p.m. Again, watch your newsletters for the registration and our website as well. So today, we're quite excited about it. I know I'm really excited about it. Brisbane has always been on my list of travel destinations, which I hope to get to, one day in the near future. So we're really thrilled about today. And I know, Julie, this has been really a love of yours, and you've traveled a lot to Brisbane. So I'm going to turn this over to Julie, who's going to introduce our wonderful guest. And just before I do, any questions you have, please put them in the chat box or the Q&A box. Anything you think of, please don't be shy. And Julie will make sure all your questions get answered throughout our presentation. So don't be shy, please do. So Julie, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce our wonderful guest today.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. And yes, you're right. Australia, being an Australia specialist, I just fell in love with Australia. And the first time I landed there was in Brisbane, and that was about 15 years ago. And I was telling Luke earlier, it actually, the city of Brisbane reminded me a little bit of Edmonton because it had the river running through it, and it's actually transformed quite a bit since that time, really come alive. But great coffee culture, really active people, lots of trips you can do that incorporate the river, really just a lot of character. And so I personally cannot wait to get back to Brisbane. So today with us is Luke Jones, and Luke and I have met at a couple Tourism Australia conferences in the past. So happy to have him with us today. So he joins us from the Brisbane Economic Development Agency, which is like Brisbane Tourism, which he's been representing for the last couple of years. But before that, for about 10 years, he was with Tourism Australia. And for 3 of those years, he lived up here in Canada, in Toronto. Did you ever get out to Western Canada, Luke?
I did, yes. I had the privilege of traveling all around Canada. So I spent most of my time in Toronto, but we came out to Edmonton, we came out to British Columbia and Vancouver, and got to meet a lot of Canadians. I think Canadians and Australians have a very similar way of looking at the world, and certainly a similar sense of humor and similar passion for lifestyle and getting out there and exploring the world.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, I'll pass it over to you. Feel free to share your screen, and we'll be here for any questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So great introduction to Brisbane, by the way. Brisbane has changed a lot, and it does feel like a small city that's become big, and the river is a big part of that. A lot of development has gone on in the city of Brisbane in terms of hotels and different activities and restaurants, etc. But it still hasn't lost its small town charm. Everyone there's got a great sense of humour. The Aussies like to live outdoors and really enjoy the environment they're in. So when you're in Brisbane and you're walking along the river after work, you'll see everyone coming out of their offices and going down to the bars and restaurants and just kicking on and enjoying the city. So it's not like one of those cities that just sort of empties out. I live in LA actually, which really doesn't have like a real center like that. So Brisbane does really have that, community feel, but it is a big city now. Just show you how to get there from Canada. It's just a short little hop across the ditch, Vancouver to Brisbane. Actually, the quickest way into Australia is via Brisbane. It's the furthest north international gateway for North America. So before the shutdown, Air Canada was flying nonstop into Brisbane with their 777s aircraft, and great service, great airline, great national carrier. And we were welcoming a lot of Canadians straight into Brisbane. And they were launching on for their rest of their Aussie vacation from there. So, typically people spend 2 to 3 weeks. We notice Canadians spend more time. They seem to have a lot more time to sort of stop and smell the roses and some other visitors. So we find that Canadians really do enjoy Brisbane and spend the time there in the city a bit more than people are in a hurry to go and see all the other sites in Australia. And here's our airport here. It's probably the most relaxed airport you'd see in Australia. I don't know what Edmonton Airport looks like, but this is still kind of a small town sort of feel, but it's an international gateway. We just put in a second runway, so people use Brisbane as a staging area to go off into the rest of their vacation. So if you're flying on that long haul flight from, say, Vancouver, Brisbane's a great place just to take a break before you kick on and go see Sydney and do the Great Barrier Reef. 2 or 3 nights here is just fantastic. It's you can be curbside, land and be curbside within 10 or 15 minutes out of this airport. So that's awesome to see. Now, just a bit of geography here. So Australia is large. In fact, it's almost the same size as the continental United States. A lot less populated, of course, and everything is kind of spread out. But when you land in Brisbane, there's great connections to all the things that people want to do, be it Sydney, Uluru, Ayers Rock, the big red rock in the centre, Melbourne. We have great access to the Great Barrier Reef, which is probably the number 2 thing people want to do when they come to see Australia. Normally it's Sydney and the Great Barrier Reef, and have some great cultural experiences in Brisbane, and Queensland's a big part of that. And you can see the access here. So Paul Travel can help you with all of these connecting flights, obviously, but they're very modern and seamless.
Hey, Luke, we're having Sunshine Coast Tourism next month, if anybody's interested.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Emily
will be on.
Yeah, we're great partners with them, because people often go up there. I mean, you've got Australia Zoo, Steve Irwin's zoo, that's now run by his family, and that's only an hour or so out of Brisbane. And one of the great attractions for visitors coming into Australia is to go out there for a day trip and go see the crocodile, the crocodiles, and the conservation projects they're working there on Australia Zoo. So that's great. You're going to hear from those guys. Yeah. So the city of Brisbane itself, it's really a compact city, and it's sort of divided into precincts: the Arts Precinct, the Queen's Wharf area, Howard Smith Wharves, and the shopping precincts. And if you're a good walker, which we know a lot of Canadians are, you can actually just walk around the whole city and not feel exhausted or anything. And it's actually part of the experience, exploring by foot. Though we do have a river that goes right through the city, and you can just get city cat connections where you see those little boat icons there. Those are the stops where the city cat stops, and it can take you to various locations if you're in a bit of a hurry. But I actually just enjoy walking around the city and exploring it and uncovering little laneways and nooks and crannies and cafes, little art galleries, and actually meeting the locals. As soon as they hear an accent, they'll ask you where you're from and strike up a conversation. It's one of the great reasons why people travel is to experience the differences, right? We want to meet new people, and certainly Australians are very welcoming like that when they hear an accent. A bit further afield, outside of Brisbane, all of these great experiences are really close to the city. So within 60 minutes or so, you can be going to a Koala Sanctuary, you can be going hiking in the mountains, you can go to wineries, to the rainforest, or you can be going out to Moreton Island, Tangaluma Island Resort, North Stradbroke Island, all within this radius of Brisbane. So it really is we call it Australia's nature's capital, because there's so much nature within Kui, as we say in Australia, close proximity of the actual city itself. So our three best features, if you had to ask us, what are your three best features? We'd say, well, look, we're an open air city. We actually have the most sunshine of any major capital in Australia. It's about 287 days of sunshine, and that's why it's such an outdoor city. The bay and the wildlife and the majestic landscapes are really, I'd throw in personality there too, because, you know, Brisbane still has an Australian small town feel in terms of the culture and accessibility and friendliness, but it is a big city, and you get that culture and personality coming through as well when you're there. So this is what summer looks like, and this is what winter looks like, pretty much the same. The tagline for Queensland, Australia used to be beautiful one day, perfect the next, which really does describe Brisbane and Queensland. I lived in Toronto. I loved Toronto, but these two pictures would not be the same. It was quite a dramatic difference, which, you know, it has its own charm having seasons like that, but you will not see any snow or cold weather in Brisbane at all. So some great hotels, and, you know, Judy, it has changed a lot since you were there in 2006. So these hotels wouldn't have been here. This is the Koala, and this is a 5-star hotel in the middle of the city. And this is the Emporium Hotel, one of these rooftop swimming pools and rooftop bar. I actually had a drink there last time I was in Brisbane in August a couple of years ago, before the lockdown started, and I was in the bar and the whole roof just started opening up. So it was just quite spectacular. It's got this big cantilevered roof that opens up and you can see all the stars while you're having a drink there, and then dive into the pool, and just panoramic views across the city and the bay and the river. W Hotel, everyone knows the W look and feel, and then the Fantuzio Hotel right under the Story Bridge, which is the big bridge that crosses the Brisbane River. I stayed here as well. This is very cool. Art Series Hotel, lots of original artworks in here, and you'll see the art and culture permeating throughout Brisbane through all the hotels. Some really nice hotels: Hyatt Regency, Spices, Balfour, and Hotel X, new hotels here. So lots of great accommodation options, which Paul Travel can help you with. And yeah, we do recommend staying a couple of nights and just really soaking up Brisbane. Great way to break your trip when you're arriving on that flight from Vancouver. Now, Aussies do like to eat and drink, and it's very al fresco here. Very, very outdoors, kind of like Toronto in the summer, lots of patios, only overlooking the river, and it just goes year round. You can just stroll down the South Bank and step into a winery, a bar or a restaurant. We actually do have Australia's only waterfront brewery, Fallon's Brewery, as well, and there is a winery, City Winery, but it's not on the river. The terrace, another rooftop. So al fresco, think Brisbane, think al fresco rooftop dining and riverside dining and drinks and nibbles. Here's some of those breweries I was telling you about. In fact, Brisbane City has 20 breweries, microbreweries within the city area. And Fallon's is probably the most famous one here. It's right on the river. You just walk in and you can see all the brewing tanks there just exposed. You get to try their various samples while you're just watching the boats go by on the river. And our chill outs. So lifestyle is a big part of Australia, and certainly in Brisbane here. This is Howard Smith Wharves, and that's that bridge I was telling you about, the Story Bridge. And under one side is the hotel. You can actually climb this, and it's an experience similar to what Sydney does with the bridge climb. Or there's just plain old rock climbing. This is Kangaroo Point Cliffs. You'll see Brisbaneites out biking, kayaking, climbing. They're very, very outdoorsy, very active, and they just really like to enjoy the environment they're in. River life is an experience where you can kayak down the Brisbane River, just grab some kayaks with your friends and have a guide and have a bit of a guided tour while you're in a kayak. Miramar Cruises is a really good way to connect through the various attractions throughout Brisbane, and they go to Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary is one of their signature trips, and there you can go cuddle a koala and get pictures with kangaroos and feed kangaroos, etc. This is the Story Bridge adventure climb. So you're harnessed onto the bridge and you climb up the top with a guide, and you get a full history of Brisbane back into the Aboriginal time before the European settlers came, and a really fascinating guided aerial tour of the city. Tangaluma Island Resort, and this is probably one of the keynote things you can do in Brisbane. This is just 60 to 70 minutes away from Brisbane, and via boat. And this is an island resort where you can do snorkeling, quad biking, and these are old shipwrecks that we have here, which makes really good snorkeling sites. And it's also known for its Dolphin Sanctuary, and the dolphins come in at sunset, and you can actually hand feed them if you want to do that. It used to be a whaling station, and now it's totally turned around into a sort of a conservation and nature and adventure park. So some other activities: Australian sunset safaris, floating images hot air balloons. So if you haven't done a hot air balloon, I highly recommend that. It's a great way to soak in a lot of the vista at once. Get up at dawn, go out there in a hot air balloon, see the sunrise over the scenic rim, and come back down and have a champagne breakfast. And it really is a real treat. Ballooning is the most serene experience I've ever done. You are literally floating, but there's no bumps or jounces at all, and it's really quite amazing. Get some excellent photos. We do have whale watching as well from boat, but also from North Stradbroke Island is the best whale watching in Australia from the land, best land-based whale watching, and I'll show you a picture of that. Here's City Winery. Yes, we do have a winery right in the middle of the city of Brisbane, which you can just step into, sample some wines, and maybe buy a few bottles to take home. Australians, as I mentioned, do love their food and drink. And then this is the winery here. You can actually stay out at the winery at Miramar Winery, which is a bit further out of the city. And this is like an eco sanctuary and a winery where you can do the wine tours and then stay in these lovely glamping out these lovely luxury tents. Also, you can jump in a helicopter if ballooning is not enough adrenaline for you.
Luke, I was just going to say, when I was speaking with the owner of Miramar, he said they often have concerts, private concerts there. They even had Elton John not too long ago. So being able to catch one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great venue for that. It's a beautiful private venue and beautifully appointed accommodation, and of course the winery itself. So they do have VIP events and concerts there. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. In fact, Brisbane in general is known as having great concerts and events year round. So that is something to consider when you do have your travel plans, what's actually going on in the city, and maybe staying an extra night or two to enjoy that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mentioned Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary. This is a fun thing to do. People like to get up and close and personal with the koalas, and it's a great conservation story they're doing there, and you can get a selfie and meet the koalas. They really are incredibly cute. And there's also other marsupials there and other Australian animals, such as kangaroos, etc. And this you can do on Miramar Cruises just straight out of out of your hotel. Just jump on the nearest spot and go up to Lone Pine. It's only about 20 minutes away by Miramar Cruise. So yeah, definitely a nature and adventure experience you can have right in the middle of the city. Now, I haven't mentioned the Indigenous culture of Australia, which is incredibly important. The Aboriginal people of Australia is officially the oldest living continuous culture in the world, having been tracing their heritage back to 80,000 years and probably more in Australia. And so they've been continuous on the continent of Australia for that amount of time. And there's many different cultures. And depending on which state and territory of Australia you're in, you'll have an experience. So in Brisbane, there is a great experience called Spirits of the Red Sand in Bentley, which is just 20 minutes from the centre of the city. And you can have an Indigenous show and an interpretive cultural experience there, and meet some of the local Indigenous people. So we do highly recommend that you do that while you're in Australia and learn a bit about that culture. It really is a fascinating ancient culture, and their belief system is really fascinating. So it's an important part of any Australian experience. And then there's more contemporary art as well. Brisbane has some amazing art galleries, modern art galleries, fine art galleries, etc. Escape to the Bay, I mentioned Tangaluma. Tangaluma Island Resort is on Moreton Bay Island, and here's an aerial shot of those wrecks. So these ships were sunk basically to create little, artificial reefs for people to enjoy snorkeling. But it has one of the best beaches in Australia here. And then North Stradbroke Island, you can see here with the Kangaroo, you can actually whale watch from the island. That's one of the best places in Australia to actually whale watch. And all of these experiences are within 60 to 90 minutes from the centre of Brisbane City. One great way to do it is a day trip here. So you can just jump on the river to bay. Literally is the river to bay, so it takes you from the Brisbane River out to Moreton Bay, and you can do some of these experiences, do snorkeling, and then be back in the afternoon back in your hotel or back in time for dinner or your next experience in the city. And then we have the scenic rim, which surrounds the Brisbane area, and this is getting out to more of the wilderness part of Brisbane region, and this is, you know, again 60 minutes to 90 minutes away from the centre of Brisbane, and beautiful mountains, the wineries we mentioned, and the rainforests. Here are some great views here. So Queensland is the only place in Australia, or actually in the world, where two World Heritage Areas meet. So that's the Daintree Rainforest meets the Great Barrier Reef. So absolutely stunning natural wonders. Spices Retreats. So when you think Spices Retreats, think eco luxury experiences in some of the most beautiful places you're going to see in Australia. And here's an example here. So great to stay here and then do a nature walk while you're there and explore and learn about the ecosystems and the flora and fauna of Australia. You'll definitely come across some Aussie marsupials out here, and people do love to see them in the wild. So insider tips. Brisbane by Bicycle is a great thing to do, and Ross at Brisbane by Bicycle is a great guy who runs the outfit, and just exploring the city, doing the market tour. If you're feeling a bit fitter and just going around on a guided tour by bicycle, it's actually probably the way Aussies would like to do it, and you'll see them on their bikes while you're in the city. James Street is our, Rodeo Drive, really amazing boutiques and little bars and restaurants. You can even go and make your own gin at the gin distillery. I see a lot of these are drink oriented, which is very Australian. Suncorp Stadium is our main stadium, so you can go watch a game of footy there or a game of cricket, depending on the season, at Suncorp Stadium. And lots of little eateries here. Mount Kuthar is pronounced Kuthar, is our big outlook here. So catch a sunrise if you can, or a sunset from Moreton Bay out in Tangaluma. You can stay out at Tangaluma Island Resort. They've got wonderful accommodation out there, and you can spend a good 2 days out there exploring and enjoying all the marine life through snorkeling and diving, etc. So also go to the Powerhouse Museum, and so there's a lot of cultural experience, but also adventure type experiences and getting out there enjoying it. Of course, fine wine and cuisine and great beers are all a part of that. Okay, so what's coming? So there's still more coming. All these new hotels have gone in, and by the time Brisbane is open again for visitors, which we anticipate, sometime early next year to mid next year, there's going to be even more. So new luxury hotels. This is Queen's Wharf, which is opening in 2022, a huge complex of hotels and shopping and entertainment districts. And what we're really excited to announce just as the Tokyo Olympics is closing, that Brisbane has won the 2032 bid to host the Summer Olympics and Paralympic Games. So I know that's a ways off, but we'll be preparing for that and putting a lot more tourism infrastructure into the city and hotels, etc. So stay tuned for that one. We're going to start talking more and more about that as the seasons progress. And here's the shopping precinct that's going in as part of Queen's Wharf. So a lot more shopping and activities and entertainment to go in there. So that's just a bit of an overview of Brisbane. I do have a little clip just to show you at the end here. We'll just roll it and hopefully you can hear it. Looks like it's freezing up.
Thank you so much. I've heard it said that we're all, at this time, we're all really craving new memories and new experiences. And it's good to just quench our thirst a little bit with these presentations and seeing some videos and that, but nothing beats the real thing, that's for sure. So
Yeah, great.
yeah, that's just awesome. And congratulations on the Olympics. That's really exciting. That's a long time away. I was telling my nephew, I'm like, yeah, in 2032. He's like, that's such a long time away, but it'll be here before we know it. So that's just amazing.
Yeah.
Can you, Luke, just talk about maybe the temperatures? I mean, it's so mild all year, like, hot and mild. Your mild winters are mild, but maybe what the temperature would be in say the winter time and how hot it gets in the summer.
Yeah, okay, so Brisbane is subtropical, right? So and our seasons are opposite to Canada. So our summer is basically, Christmas and New Year, and our winter is in the middle of the year. So during the middle of the year, the coldest part is probably going to be 15 degrees to 20 degrees Celsius on average, and probably warm up during the day. And then it's going to be a bit hotter and a bit rainier, and over Christmas and New Year and probably February, it can get up to 30s, and the humidity can be a bit higher then as well. But it's a very temperate. It isn't tropical; it's subtropical. And the further north you go, the more tropical it gets. So when you go up to Cairns, the Great Barrier Reef, you're going to find that humidity and heat is going to increase accordingly. So the ideal window really is our winter. April, May, June, July, August, September, shoulder season is probably, if you're at all troubled by any kind of heat, you're going to find it very, very mild and temperate for most of the year.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Oh, that sounds lovely. And then for people coming into Brisbane, can you just talk a little bit about whether you think they need a car or how they can access some of the other areas, north and south?
You can certainly rent a car. There's plenty of rental car options. It is a very easy city to transfer around, and you saw that the River Cat there can get you around to most places. If you wanted to go, say, up to Australia Zoo, there's transfers. There's like 5 or 6 transfers that leave a day that take you up there. I honestly, unless you're really going to stay in the Brisbane area for about 5 or 7 days and really explore it and just go to all the nooks and crannies and little, outback cafes and all that sort of stuff, then that's fine. But you really don't need a car to get around. And there's the taxis are great, the Ubers are all great. We can organise airport transfers for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you're in your hotel, they can organise transfers for you to where you're going to next. So unless you're a self-drive nut, it's not necessary. Yeah.
Amazing. I don't think there's any other questions. Rhonda, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, it was fantastic. Thank you so much, Luke. It's really got me dreaming about traveling and definitely heading to Brisbane. It looks so fabulous. And I love the city is like this little city, but it's so accessible to all these different areas. And it's a place that I think you'd want to go and spend a lot of time. So
yeah,
it looks fantastic.
So yeah, Aussies go there for holidays. So you're going to bump into a lot of Aussies who are sort of taking their own holiday there. So that's one of the best testaments is where do the locals go, right? So yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if Julie had mentioned earlier, she kind of said when she went, it kind of reminded her of Edmonton. I wish we had those beautiful rooftop, bars and restaurants and stuff, and have that amazing view. So,
Well, do you have your patios? Do you have a walk that goes under the city in Edmonton? Like we used to have that in Toronto. You could walk under the city and all the shops. So there's a lot of shops under the city because of the snow. That was it.
Not so
we do, but it's not. It's just like a walk, headways and underground tunnels that kind of leads you from one area to that. But it's not that fabulous, like
right.
Brisbane is with their outdoor patios like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No worries.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Luke. Thanks so much for your time, and we appreciate you sharing Brisbane with us, and wish you all the best. Have a great summer, and thank you to all of you who joined us today. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks a lot, Julie. Thanks, Rhonda.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, good night, everybody.